Welcome to this introduction to lighting design, and this presentation will be linked to 39 steps, but it's also a general overview into lighting. This is of course for the question 1, but it also helps with understanding the context for the extract. So first of all, what's lighting for? So we know that it's very good at creating mood or atmosphere, so we might want to create moments of comedy, to create moments of fear with our audience or a sense of suspense. We might also want to simply think about location. So if we're cutting from place to place without necessarily a scene change, we might change colour. So you might go from a lamplight to a green external light to show you're going outside, and time of day. And obviously we have light fading, we have light getting warmer, colder, and particular action on stage. We might have what's called a special, so it might light up a certain prop that we want to see. We might want to draw attention to a certain movement that actors are doing. Next up, colour and intensity. So colour will be something that you'll all have a kind of intuitive sense of what you can do with it, and we'll come on to that in a moment. But first of all, we've got to think about the language that we use. So the intensity, or how bright a light is written as a percentage. So when you're running a lighting board, you might turn it all the way up to top, so 100%, and that'll be very bright. You don't often work at that unless it's a kind of comedy or it's particularly open lighting that you want to create, because you want to light the whole stage. But it's unlikely you'll do that for a lot of the piece. Generally, you'll work on different lower percentages. Now, obviously, 10 is very dim, but you can work at 30%, 40%, 50%. You decide depending on the piece. We generally describe colour as being warm or cold for stage lighting. So you might say, I want it to be warmer or colder at this moment. Think about that as a form of kind of temperature, but also a sense of mood. And then when we think about colour description, we want to start adding in more detail. So if you look down this column here, you'll notice that these colours have been written with that kind of detail that gives us a real sense of what that colour looks like. There is, of course, the famous lighting designer's joke of light bastard amber, which is a type of orange, and then there's different blues. I like this idea of it being misty blue or daylight blue, sky blue, and you can come up with your own for this, but it's good to draw upon these. And then, of course, we have meanings. This is the sort of symbolic value of colour. And there's a great little guide on this side that gives you an understanding of what are the things that we generally share when we talk about colour, that kind of shared meaning that we have. And like to talked about earlier, this idea of excitement or energy for yellow or bright lighting. And then for blue, it might be cool, calm, serene. And there's loads more, and you can come up with your own for this as well. Okay, lighting positions. We're going to be looking at where we put the lights. Okay, so you might want to think of it in terms of the lighting rig. So that's the thing that's above the stage. So on this picture here, the lighting rig is up here. And over on this side, we have the type of lantern. So we have a par can lighting here. And then we have the position, which is side lighting. This is used to highlight the side of the face, the arms, the mid-torso and the legs, and it's used for quite a lot of physical scenes and movement. If you go and see any dance, you'll see a lot of side lighting. It's also very good because it doesn't actually light up the floor or much of the set, so someone will look illuminated within the space, which can create quite a nice effect. We've got this idea of a footlight, and the type of light is called a birdie. Now, the reason for this is because the person who first invented this lighting was a bit of a golf obsessive, so there's lots of golf terms. You might think of cue, you might think of birdie, and lots of other lighting terms that come up. Now, the footlight is great for illuminating the actors and creating shadow. You'll see there's a little bit of shadow here from these people, and that's because we've got some footlights on this application. We've got a profile here, and a profile is a big box, sort of spotlight. When we talk about lighting, quite often people think of spotlights. You can see that spotlight over on the picture. It's lit from the top. It's going down on the actor, and it's creating a real dramatic effect there. Finally, we have backlighting, and for this we'll use a flood, which is quite an open lighting. Now backlighting is fantastic because it gives you depth, it makes the actor seem 3D, and you can have no lighting on at all and just the backlight, and that'll have a silhouette. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to this website here that I'd like you to look at in a moment, with the lighting here. So what we're going to do is, to begin with, I'm just going to take down the that's called a cyclorama, but actually it's just a backdrop really. I'm going to take that light down. I'm going to take the side light off and the top light. Okay, and let's just go through these. This is what a footlight can do. We've got some specials, so we've got spotlights. These are of course in the positions, so centre stage, downstage right, downstage left. And then this top light. And then the side light, that effect I talked about of taking the actor out of the space. And they're just lit within there. Now have a look at this website and see what you can do with it. Okay, moving on to some sort of special effects that we have. We have gobos. Now gobos are a really great idea for creating effectively patterns in light. And you can see with these examples along here, this is sort of a window frame, and it's as if there's light coming through the window and that would be cast over the floor. Now the blinds here, these are a fantastic example for that film noir feel. And then you've also got these sort of speckled and sort of blotchy designs here. And you can see what they look like on stage. This is a little bit like the ones we have in the drama studio. In fact, it's exactly the same. These are the ones that we use. So this one being a kind of prisoner sort of theme, as if they're behind bars. So here are a few examples. If we come over to the other side, we've got Hannay's flat. We can have a gobo of blinds, and we can have that in gold and amber. That's the colour that we'd use. For the theatre, so for in scene 2 and at the end of the play when they return to the theatre, we can have a gobo of tragedy and comedy drama masks in cool white. So have you ever seen those masks that are side by side? And that's in cool white just to make us feel like we're at the theatre. And then for the professor's house, we've got a nice subtle idea, a gobo of a Nazi swastika in blood red. Now obviously we're not going to use that early on. We might use that once he reveals his politics to Hannay. Then we have smoke and haze. Haze like a thin smoke. It's what we have in the drama block when we use the machine. And it can create a spooky atmosphere and also adds that film noir feel. You'll see in this picture here they've used the smoke obviously for the train, but it also means that the actors, when you light an actor and then it goes into the smoke, it's casts a shadow, so shadows through that smoke, and that's really effective for that film noir feel that we're going for, and particularly for those atmospheric moments. Okay, so here's a scene example, and as you know, that's always the best way to start with an answer, is to focus on the extract we're looking at. Now this question is very similar to all the other costume questions you faced previously, but the wording changes to lighting. Okay, so you've got to, based upon the context of the scene, you've got to decide the lighting, and it must be suitable for the 1930s context, 39 steps. Now here's the structure that we're going to use. We're going to have 4 to 5 examples. Probably 4 is enough. We need to know the light, so like Parkan, flood, birdie, the brightness, 10%, 20%, the colour, cool white, misty blue, and the position. So is that lit from the side, lit from the front? Now I've got a picture here of a light design, which is from this moment. That might give you a bit of inspiration. But first things first, take a moment to decide what are the key moments in this extract that you want to light for. Okay, now you've had a little bit of time to decide those key moments. Let's highlight them. So first of all, you might want to think about the stage directions. They're going to be key. So the car lurches to a halt. What happens when a car lurches to the halt? Well, the car might have car lights, as you can see on this picture here. They might have red lights behind them, but we know that there's a car there. Do we know the time of day? Right? Do we know where we are? We know we're in the police car and we're on the moor, so there's this kind of mistiness around the moor. There's wind. Now, we're not necessarily going to have a wind machine, but we might use a sort of colour to make it feel cold. We know they're in the car, and then the fog comes down. There's a bit of a joke that it comes out of nowhere, so it does need to come down at this moment. And then we have these guys unlocking their handcuffs, and they chase a sheep when it exits. They leave the car. So if we're lighting, we want to decide what are the things we have to light. Well, we have to light the fact they're in the car and that they leave the car. We have to include the fog. Now, as long as I'm doing those 4 to 5 examples, I'm doing the right thing. As this is the first time, let's go through a good example for this so I can show you some of the tricks and some of the things to include and avoid, because it's only 4 marks, and then you can have a go with another extract. Right, so as we saw there, we highlighted those moments, and then let's look over at this example. So first of all, I create a car with heavy 1 and heavy 2, each holding a 1930s metal torch with a flickering amber colour facing the audience. So I've got the context right, we're in the car in the 1930s. Now you might be wondering, why am I not using a stage light for that? And why am I not referring to the intensity? Now I could add the intensity there, that would certainly help. But it's a handheld light, so it's not a staged light. Now I'm doing that because it fits the style of the piece as well. The fact that they pick up a light and hold it and pretend it's a car is quite apt for the piece, for the sort of style of 39 steps. Sorry. We then go on to the next section. So Hannah and Pamela would be lit with a Parkan side light in a cool blue 30% to highlight the tense atmosphere. But haze would be used when the fog appears and the scene would be backlit night blue with a midnight glow. So you can see all of these design ideas have been included. What's missing? Well, I should really have had the percentage for the flood, shouldn't I? So maybe I could add that in. I would say maybe 50%. But I'm definitely doing these things. I'm including these examples, yeah? And you'll see the numbers along the side indicate, we've already got 3 examples, which is great. You'll also notice that I haven't gone on and on about what this shows and the meaning that we get from this. That's not what they're asking. They're asking what the lighting is that you're going to use. Then as they exit the car, I'd use an emerald green gobo, so we've referred to a gobo of leaves across the stage. Why? Because they're going outside, of course. I would add a cold misty blue at 30% from a birdie, leaving shadows in the backdrop in a film noir style. And reference the styles that adds to that context. So I'm really doing, more than enough to get 4 marks there. Okay, so over to you. Here is an extract. Take a moment to read it through and decide what the key moments are. Well done with that first go. There's a checklist there for you to see if you've achieved everything. Let's look now at a different extract. And for this one, I'll just give you a moment to decide, and then I'll talk through the extract to see if you can work out what the key moments are. So, context-wise, we know that they're on a train and the train shrieks. So we need to make it seem like a train. How are we doing that? Well, that's for you to decide, but there certainly is escaping down the corridor. So if someone's moving, you might want to think what would be the good light for him to be moving. They swoosh into a tunnel. Stage lights flicker. So the tunnel, is it going to get darker? The flickering, that's going to be quite important. And then as we look further down, the idea of him being trapped, and suddenly there's this blue light comes up on Pamela. Now, how you do that blue light, what lighting you choose, what position you choose, and how you change from the earlier lighting to the later lighting will be your decision.